Welcome back, everyone, to the Let Nothing Movie Podcast. Your host, Christian Ashley, as we continue on through the book of Joshua. Today, we're going to be in chapters 18 through 22. Just a little bit of housekeeping first. I'm not in my usual recording environment. I'm on vacation with my father and grandmother up in the mountains in Tennessee. So if anything's spotty or anything's messed up that way, you might hear conversation outside. That's why, I'm sure Joshua will do what he can, but you know what? He's only a man. There's only so much he can do. So if something goes wrong, don't blame him. Just blame the environment. Speaking of that, Joshua, next time you will hear his dulcet tones and plenty of bad opinions when he comes on to join me alongside, Josh is the Josh with the bad opinions. Brandon Knight is going to be the Brandon Knight of the Midwestern opinions. I don't know what that means, but I just came up with it on the spot. So the both of them are going to be joining me for Joshua 23 through 24 to finish this off. So just keep that in mind as we're moving on. Thank them for their time in advance as we head into it. So without any further ado, let us go into this one. We're going to be starting in chapter 18. We'll be in verses 1 through 10. Oh, I should also say the mountains haven't agreed with me that much as far as, pollen analogies go. So if I sound a little gruffer or I have to cough every now and then, that's why. I'm sure it'll be worse in its own way when I get back home. But just, if the grate's on you, that's why. So starting in verse 1. Then the whole congregation of the people of Israel assembled at Shiloh and set up the tent of meeting there. The land lay subdued before them. There remained among the people of Israel 7 tribes whose inheritance had not yet been apportioned. So Joshua said to the people of Israel, "How long will you put off going in to take possession of the land which the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you? Provide 3 men from each tribe, and I will send them out that they may set up and go up and down the land. They shall write a description of it with a view to their inheritances, and then come to me. They shall divide it into 7 portions. Judah shall continue in his territory on the south, and the house of Joseph shall continue in their territory on the north. And you shall describe the land in 7 divisions and bring the description here to me. And I will cast lots for you here before the Lord our God. The Levites have no portion among you, for the priesthood of the Lord is their heritage. And Gad and Reuben and the half tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance beyond the Jordan eastward, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave them." So the men arose and went, and Joshua charged those who went to write the description of the land, saying, "Go up and down in the land and write a description and return to me. And I will cast lots for you here before the Lord in Shiloh." So the men went and passed up and down in the land and wrote in a book a description of it by towns in 7 divisions. Then they came to Joshua to the camp at Shiloh, and Joshua cast lots for them at Shiloh before the Lord. And there Joshua apportioned the land to the people of Israel, to each his portion. So we see set up here is something that's going to be incredibly relevant over the next couple of centuries for Israel, in that the town of Shiloh is going to be their religious center for quite some time. Depending on how you date the Exodus and the conquering of the land, it could be 400 years, it could be 200 years. Either way, a long amount of time. And what we see here is Joshua organizing everyone within the sphere of religious influence. Why does he do that? Well, because it's the smartest thing to do. As the leader of these people, as their spiritual leader and literal leader, he's there to help them. Yes, they have a high priest and he's a spiritual leader in that regard, but he has served as a spiritual leader in many regards as being their physical leader as well. So using his time wisely, using his opportunities wisely, he brings them where? Oh, to where the tabernacle is. Oh, to where the Holy of Holies is, where the Ark of the Covenant is, so on and so forth. So that they can make the right decision here, to trust in God. And this is something that's going to be very important because it sets a precedent. This is how things should go on from here. If you want to make a decision as a tribe, as a nation, where do you go? You go to Shiloh. Eventually, when the temple is built, they will go to Jerusalem. The idea being that's where God dwells. So let us go to him, where his servants, the Levites, who have no land of their own, and yet are able to live in places because God gives them a place to stay. They are supposed to be helping to teach us how to do things correctly, how to love him well, how to be lawful and moral. So Joshua wisely brings them here, sets up everything going on so that they can go out from the religious center to go to the land yet to be conquered, or to the land that has been conquered. Both of those, and say, here's what God has given us. Now we're going to trust God by the casting of lots which is a supernatural presence, that a way that God can show up and give his direction that without him verbally speaking. So, but you may notice, like, we've got 5 tribes otherwise who haven't had to do this. So what's the deal? Like, why do these 7 tribes have to send out the 3 scouts, as it were, to, look at the land and survey it and bring it back? Well, the answer is neglect. They have neglected their duties. Look at how Joshua talks to them. How long will you put off going in to take possession of the land which the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you? You know what that tells me? They weren't doing their job. Yeah, as we've seen in previous chapters, people like Ephraim, Manasseh, Judah, and the like, they went out and did the work, except that they weren't fully in it. So therefore, they didn't get everything they were supposed to. But there's a difference between getting out there and doing the work for a bit and then losing your way along the way and never doing it in the first place. Like, they confirmed themselves at the end of their attempt at conquest with their hearts. That's one thing. That's not being lukewarm. We see some lukewarm hearts. And as we'll see later on in Revelation, whenever we get there, eons from now, God's going to tell people that he's going to spit them out if they're lukewarm. I'd rather you were hot or cold. And right now, the people who failed to conquer the land already have proven that they're cold while saying that they're hot. But here we have people, and we see the end result of them actually proving themselves to not be on fire for God. Here we have people claiming the same and doing nothing about it. So Joshua is giving them a direct command here. Get off your butts. Quit acting like you're doing the right thing and go and do the right thing. Conquer the land. Look after your own people. Lead them well. Work with the Levites who will be living among you to teach, to learn from them so that you can live out your lives in accordance to the will of God. So quit being lazy and get up and do it. And that is a call that is given to every single one of us. It is so very easy. I say this as an especially lazy person. To just sit down and go, you know what? I'm saved. I got what I wanted. Game, set, match. And then I do nothing. Because I got what was mine, but that's not how God works. God doesn't want a complacent Christian. Someone who says, okay, God saved me, that's good, I don't need to do anything else. No, there should be a heart change involved there. There should be work that we are doing so that we are actively known as his, so that people can see our fruit and go, there's no way I can say that they're not. Because it's a lot easier for someone to say, is he really a Christian? Is she really a Christian? All they do is stay at home all day. They don't even talk to anybody. They just kind of do their own thing. Like, who's that? Or maybe you see them every now and then, but there's nothing about them that like screams, hey, I'm a servant of God. Because they're not doing anything with their time. They're not looking after other people well. They're not loving on the people that God has put into their lives. Because God hates lukewarm Christians. He hates Christians who are complacent because we don't do our job. And the kingdom isn't being furthered when we're not doing our job. Now, God can work despite us, but that's the issue that shouldn't have been made simply because we were too lazy or simply because we were scared or doubting or what have you. God shouldn't have to be the one who intervenes. It should be us and God working alongside us rather than us being very one-sided. And as we're going to see throughout Israel's history, they have a problem with the idea of them having to do the work, of them actually having to be faithful. And that's what's going to cause decline after decline after decline to the point where God doesn't give up on them completely, but gives them exactly what they want and removes his protection for a time. In both exiles, and the fact that they still to this day, those who are genetically Jewish and are not Christians reject Jesus Christ. There's an issue there. So let us not act in the same way. Let us, in fact, do better and be better. And we're going to start off on our tribal allotment here by going through verses 11 through 28. The lot of the tribe of the people of Benjamin, according to its clans, came up, and a territory allotted to it fell between the people of Judah and the people of Joseph. On the north side, that boundary began at the Jordan. Then the boundary goes up to the shoulder north of Jericho, and then up through the hill country westward, and it ends at the wilderness of Beth Aven. From there, the boundary passes along southward in the direction of Luz, to the shoulder of Luz, that is Bethel. Then the boundary goes down to Ataroth Adar, on the mountain that lies south of Lower Beth Horon. Then the boundary goes in another direction, turning on the western side, southward, from the mountain that lies to the south, opposite Beth Horon, and it ends at Kiriath Baal, that is Kiriath Jearim, a city belonging to the people of Judah. This forms the western side. And the southern side begins at the outskirts of Kiriath Jearim, and the boundary goes from there to Ephron, to the springs of the waters of Nephtoah. Then the boundary goes down to the border of the mountain that overlooks the valley, son of Hinnom. I have all words. I stumble over the word son. For all those proper nouns. Which is at the north end of the valley of Rephaim. And it then goes down the valley of Hinnom, south of the shoulder of the Jebusites, and downward to En Rogel. Then it bends in a northerly direction, going on to En Shemesh, and from there goes to Geliloth, that's much better. Stumble over that word, Christian, which is opposite the ascent of Adumim. Then it goes down to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben, and passing on to the north of the shoulder of Beth Arabah, it goes down to the Arabah. Then the boundary passes on to the north of the shoulder of Beth Hoglah, and the boundary ends at the northern bay of the Salt Sea, at the south end of the Jordan. This is the southern border. The Jordan forms its boundary on the eastern side. This is the inheritance of the people of Benjamin according to their clans, boundary by boundary, all around. Now the cities of the tribe of the people of Benjamin according to their clans were Jericho, Beth Hoglah, Emekkeses, Beth Arabah, Zemaraim, Bethel, Avim, Hara, Oprah, Chephar Ammoni, Ophni, Geba, 12 cities with their villages. Gibeon, Ramah, Beeroth, Mizpah, Chephirah, Moza, Rechem, Irpeel, Taralah, Zelah, Halef, Jebus, that is Jerusalem, Gibeah, and Kiriath Jearim, 14 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the people of Benjamin according to its clans. Got plenty more proper nouns to go through that. So here we see. Now that these 7 tribes have done what they were supposed to do, to an extent, we'll get to their problems in a bit. Benjamin, which borders Judah and Ephraim, has got its allotment set. Now, Benjamin is one of those tribes that's going to be super important, sometimes for very wrong reasons, sometimes for very good reasons. Now, as opposed to many of the other tribes we're dealing with today, they have plenty of a role to play, of course. The civil war that happens in Judges as a result of their apostasy and unwillingness to confront sin in their midst. Then we have them being the tribe that's picked to have a representative become king, and King Saul. There's going to be other chances of rebellions happening on with members of their forces acting against King David. But when we get to the split of the southern and northern kingdom, Benjamin is the only other tribe outside of Simeon, and technically the tribe of Levi, that was inside of Judah in that sphere of influence, that remains with the southern kingdom and the legitimate kings of the age. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place the entire time, and yet they do join the winning team. Now, they lose their way alongside what used to be the winning team along the way, but let's give them their credit here. They did what they were supposed to for a time. They failed like the rest of Israel. It's an endless cycle. There's a reason God ended it the way he did. So what we see with them is that we do have the power to choose. Who are we serving? Are we serving God, representative here of Judah doing its job correctly, or Ephraim, which later on will become one of the heads of worship to golden calves and other beings and deities that have no business whatsoever being worshipped? And the same is true of us as a church, as a people. We have a golden opportunity every day to serve God. Like, we know that. That's exactly what we're supposed to do. We didn't come into this thinking that we didn't have to do anything. And if you did, we have an issue. We came into this knowing we have to work every single day to deny self and serve him. And at different parts in their history, Benjamin does this well. At other parts, they really fail. So what are we supposed to learn from that? We're them. Just like we can look at Israel and say, I'm them. I serve God well, then I screw up, and I serve other gods. I serve myself, other idols in my life, then I come back to them. Same thing with them. Learn from their mistakes, learn from their successes. Let's talk about a failure. So you may remember from last time that Jebus, or Jerusalem, is supposed to be owned by Judah. So what's going on here? Is there some contradiction in the text that the ancient writers think, it's kind of close to both borders, so I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to say this is Benjamin. Then another writer comes and they say, oh, actually, it was Judah, and they both contradict each other? Is that what's happening? No. Remember what happened when it was Judah's turn to take Jerusalem. Failed. So what we see here is God giving Benjamin the chance to do what their southern neighbor couldn't and take this territory for their own. And we're going to see in Judges them do it again. We're going to see failure because their hearts were led astray by their own whims, by their own sin, by their own pride. So God removed what should have been theirs. And the Jebusites are going to remain until the day of King David. What we see from them is that just because you've been told, hey, go and do this, it is still predicated on the fact that they are supposed to be serving God when they go out and do these things. So when they don't get what God promised them because they messed up. Not God, they messed up. So they don't get what was promised. You can promise stuff and it not be given based on a contractual dealing with the other person. Hey, every parent's had to deal with this before. If you eat your vegetables, I'll give you this. Well, if they don't, like I did, then they don't get that thing. I was denied many things in the past because I didn't do what was asked of me. What was promised to me was one thing, but what I did with that promise was mine. I can either submit to it, which I still don't to this day, be things I don't like, or I could listen and get what was promised to me. It's the same thing here. I used a sillier example, but you understand what's being said here. Making promises isn't a guarantee. So don't look at this and say God is not giving up his part of the bargain. No, remember, this is influenced by, as we went through the entire Pentateuch, if you serve me, a conditional covenant here, then I will give you this. I promise you this. So when they don't get what they want, what's the only answer that makes logical sense? Oh, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They weren't serving God correctly. They were serving self. They didn't get what was promised to them. They don't get all uppity about this and say, oh, this is God's all in the wrong here. He promised something, he didn't deliver on it. That just proves how weak and frail he is. No, it proves how weak and frail we are and how just and merciful God is, because he's a God of his word. I don't want to work with a God that's like, oh, well, you gave it your best, guys, your best foot forward, except you really didn't. But you know what? I love you guys. I'm going to give what you want, even though you didn't do what you're supposed to do. No, that's not the God we serve. The God we serve demands perfection. The God we serve demands, as only he can, that we live our lives in truth, that we live our lives free of sin. So when we fail to do what he says to do, it's not on him for setting up an impossible standard. It's on us for not living up to it as much as possible. God knows we're imperfect. God knows we're never going to be perfect. But he still demands perfection because that's the only thing that matters in this world, is serving him correctly, so that we can get other people to serve him correctly and receive the same love we've been given. Anything less than total obedience is failure. It's sin. It's not loving toward God. To learn from their example. Let's move on from there. Chapter 19. We'll be going through verses 1 through 23. The second lot came out for Simeon, for the tribe of the people of Simeon, according to their clans, and their inheritance was in the midst of the inheritance of the people of Judah. And they had for their inheritance Beersheba, Sheba, Moladah, Hazar-Shual, Bala, Azim, El-Tolad, Bethel, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Markaboth, Hazar-Susa, Beth Lebaoth, and Jaruhin, 13 cities with their villages. Ain, Rimmon, Ether, and Ashan, 4 cities with their villages, together with all the villages around these cities as far as Balath-Bir, Ramah of the Negev. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Simeon according to their clans. The inheritance of the people of Simeon formed part of the territory of the people of Judah. Because the portion of the people of Judah was too large for them, the people of Simeon obtained an inheritance in the midst of their inheritance. The third lot came up for the people of Zebulun according to their clans, and the territory of their inheritance reached as far as Sarid. Then their boundary goes up westward onto Mariel and touches Davasheth. Then the brook that is east of Jokneam. From Sarid it goes in the other direction, eastward toward the sunrise, to the boundary of Chisloth Tabor. From there, it goes to Dabareth, then up to Japhia. From there, it passes along on the east toward the sunrise to Gath Hefer, to Eth Kazim, and going on to Rimmon, it bends towards Nia. Then on the north, the boundary turns about to Hanathon, and it ends in the valley of Iptathel, and Katath, Nahalal, Shimron, Idala, and Bethlehem, different Bethlehem from Benjamin, 12 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the people of Zebulun according to their clans, these cities with their villages. Oh, good old Simeon. It's his turn to come up in the tribe listing. And what does he get? Not what he expected. He gets part of what was promised to someone else because they were too numerous, which is a blessing, which means that the portion that was given to them has enough room for someone else to come and move in. It also provides Simeon with a very helpful protector around them because Judah, as a far more numerous tribe than them, is going to be the one attacked first before Simeon could ever be attacked. So God is providing them some safety here. However, if you know your biblical history, this is not going to be how things go down. Simeon is going to actually be absorbed into Judah as a tribe. Not as a way to lose their tribal identity, but as a way to preserve themselves within a stronger time, especially after the splitting of the kingdoms. And it's also a way to fulfill what had been prophesied against Simeon, and we'll get to Levi in a bit, by Jacob, right as he's about to die, but also because of what Simeon and Levi did in Genesis 34, when they massacred a city for no good reason, simply because they felt slighted rather than actually feeling true anger, true righteous anger at the people at the person, by the way, not people, person, who had hurt their sister. So they're getting exactly what they deserve, to an extent. Like, they don't deserve a legacy. The fact that God allowed Simeon to be a tribe in and of itself is a blessing. The fact that God puts them around Judah is a blessing. They didn't earn those things, but they earned the right to not have as much of a standing as the rest of the tribes. Then we go to Zebulun and Issachar. Now, these two are lesser tribes, and that's going to be apparent in the next couple of tribes we're going to next. And they factor very little in the biblical narrative. There are some like Canaanite uprisings in their midst that they go and fight against in Judges. They'll be part of a coalition serving, King Saul, but also serving, Abner and the rest of them after the death of King Saul. Then they'll join the rest of the 10 tribes in being apostates and worshiping the golden calves and the Baals and Ashtoreths and so on and so forth. So they don't really get much, to tell about them throughout biblical history, except as like a collective. As part of a collective, they sin. As part of a collective, they fail. As part of a collective, they don't serve God well. And also because they're so small, they only have so much. I did not do 17 through 23. I apologize. That is on me. Like I said, I am not in my usual recording environment. That kind of messed me up. So 17, if you want to, Issachar, you didn't say anything about Issachar. Well, I should have. The fourth lot came out for Issachar, for the people of Issachar, according to their clans. Their territory included Jezreel, Cheshulath, Shunem, Apharaim, Shion, Anaharath, Rabith, Kishion, Abez, Remeth, In Ganim, In Hadah, Beth Pazez. The territory also touches Tabor, Shah Hazuma, and Beth Shemesh, and its territory ends at the Jordan, 16 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Issachar, according to their clans, the cities with their villages. There we go. So the point being with them is that they play a role in Israelite history, but it's not as big as it could have been. And one of the leading factors, alongside several of the tribes around them, is that they don't serve God well. When they do, good. There's going to be some judges in this region that are doing a job of protecting them. They're going to submit to their authority and actually follow God. Then when they're gone, because there's no one around to tell them exactly what to do, oh, wait, there is Levites who don't do their job. They end up falling into apostasy, like the rest of their brothers and sisters in Israel. And that's going to be the case for what we're going to see next. As we move into finish chapter 19, we're going to go through verses 24 through 51. The fifth lot came out for the tribe of the people of Asher according to their clans. Their territory included Helkath, Hali, Beten, Akshaph, Alamelech, Amad, and Mishal. On the west it touches Carmel and Shihor Libnath. Then it turns eastward. It goes to Beth Dagon and touches Zebulun in the valley of Iftahel, northward to Bethamek and Neiel. And it continues to the north to Kabul, Hebron, Rehob, Haman, Kana, as far as Sidon the Great. Then the boundary turns to Ramah, reaching to the fortified city of Tyre. Then the boundary turns to Hosan, it ends at the sea, Mahalab, Akzib, Uma, Aphek, and Rehob, 22 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Asher according to their clans, these cities with their villages. The sixth lot came out for the people of Naphtali, according to their clans. And their boundary ran from Halef, from the oak and Zananim, and Adami Nekeb, and Jabneel, as far as Lakum, and it ended at the Jordan. Then the boundary turns westward to Aznath Tabor, and goes from there to Hukok, touching Zebulun at the south, and Asher on the west, and Judah on the east to the Jordan. The fortified cities are Zedim, Zer, Hamath, Rakath, Chinnereth, Adamah, Ramah, Hazor, Kadesh, Edrei, and Hazor, Yiran, Migdal El, Horem, Beth Anath, and Beth Shemesh, 19 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Naphtali according to their clans, the cities with their villages. The seventh lot came out for the tribe of the people of Dan according to their clans, and the territory of its inheritance included Zorah, Eshtael, Shemesh, Shalabin, Aijalon, Ithla, Elon, Timnah, Ikran, Eltekah, Gibbethon, Balath, Jehud, Bene Barak, Gath-Rimmon, and Mejarkon and Rakkon with the territory over against Joppa. When the territory of the people of Dan was lost to them, the people of Dan went up and fought against Lashem. And after capturing it and striking it with the sword, they took possession of it and settled it in it, calling Lashem Dan after the name of Dan, their ancestor. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Dan according to their cities, these cities with their villages. When they had finished distributing the several territories of the land as inheritances, the people of Israel gave an inheritance among them to Joshua the son of Nun. By command of the Lord, they gave him the city that he asked, Timnath Serah in the hill country of Ephraim, and he rebuilt the city and settled in it. These are the inheritances that Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the people of Israel distributed by lot at Shiloh before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. So they finished dividing the land. Now we have finished off every single tribe except for Levi, which we'll get into a little bit. But as far as where all the other tribes are supposed to go, here we go. Now you may be asking, okay, well, you got the history of the other ones. What's going on here? Well, Asher and Naphtali, and a little bit of Dan. Dan has a little more of them, but they don't factor too much in the history of Israel. Not the same way as the tribes mentioned before. Some of them in Judges, we see them, fighting against Canaanites in the land, and there are some judges around the areas that they're in, but at the end of the day, they're not very notable. And you may notice, it would seem like Asher is a very important one here, given the amount of cities that are given to it, and, it seems like a little bit more favor is given to them. Well, guess what? Favor has been given to them, but they don't seize it. My historians in the audience will notice two very important cities mentioned there, Tyre and Sidon. There's the area, if you'll recall, where the Syrophoenician woman comes from in the Gospels. For my history buffs out there, this is where the Phoenicians grow as a people, where they will then spread across the Mediterranean, settling colonies, creating Carthage and the like, settling a couple of Greek cities, Italian cities, or Roman cities, really, Spanish cities, all over the Mediterranean. And you know how they're able to do that? Because Asher didn't do its job. Now, God knew this, and God allowed them to fail, knowing they would fail, knowing they wouldn't be faithful to him, so that he, in his divine authority, could allow the Phoenicians to succeed, despite the fact that they're supposed to be dead, because God is merciful. God is kind to people who have never once earned it. There's a common grace that we all experience here before we come to belief. After that, you get a better grace. But the common grace that everyone has is that God loves them despite their apostasy, and he gives them blessings despite their apostasy. So Asher is given a blessing in that they're allowed to remain a tribe. They're not killed and slaughtered by the Canaanites around them, as they should have been for failing. But they have some territory, and they managed to get that land, but they don't get everything they were supposed to. Now, going over to Naphtali, there's some issues there with their land, especially with Hazor, that will eventually be, dealt with when it's time for, you know, Deborah and Barak, or Barak, however the heck you want to pronounce his name, come up as judges. But then we get to Dan. And if you followed the show for some time, you may feel like I don't like the tribe of Dan. And I might feel in some ways that they may have lost their birthright in some way, shape, or form. And you would be right. Because, I mean, if you want to go for the ultimate example, in my opinion, I don't think anywhere in scripture God says, Dan, you're the worst, outside of maybe when we go to Revelation and we see the 12 tribes there, 144,000, Dan not being mentioned, that maybe God digging at them. That's how I take things, but he never overtly says as such. So I will say opinion on that part until he says otherwise. But Dan is the biggest failure in all the 12 tribes of Israel. How can I say that? If you pick up a map and you look at the region for where they're supposed to dwell, they're supposed to be next to Judah after Judah had conquered the Philistines, which they failed to do. So they're failures too, don't get me wrong. But they're supposed to have access to the sea. Joppa is an important trading city and has been for centuries. It was supposed to be theirs. And what does Dan do? Fails to take what is theirs. So God removes it from them. And what do they do with the lesson that God is trying to teach them? Oh, we don't get what we want. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go up to a people that Judges is going to describe as quiet and unsuspecting. And we're going to take their land because it's easier for us to kill them than it is for the people God called us to kill. We're going to murder these people that God did not command us to do. And they're going to name that city after Dan. But really, who are they naming it after? Themselves and their sin. There's no other way to put it. Their love for self is so apparent that even when God gives them something they don't deserve through the conquest of Lashem, do they cry out in his name and say, thank you, Lord, for this victory? No, they name it after themselves. Their wickedness at times seems to be so much more than the rest of Israel. And they're going to get exactly what's coming to them when God brings the exile in, when the Assyrians come in. Because guess who's first up there? Dan's going to be the first one that gets hit. They're at the very tippy top if you look at the map. When they could have been one of the last, or maybe even never taken it at all if they'd done what they were supposed to do. Once again, look at the map. Look at where they end up. Look at where they're supposed to be. And that's something we do to ourselves all the time. We remove ourselves from where God is keeping us safe, to places where we shouldn't be, thinking that we've conquered something, thinking that we made our names known to be even greater than before. And you know what? God allowed those successes. God allowed us to be evil and succeed. But a reckoning is coming. And it's going to be a point in time where we're going to look up at him and say, God, I was wrong to go here when you wanted me there. God, I was wrong when I wanted to love self instead of deny self, which is truly loving myself. Oh. What are we supposed to do with this? Well, let's actually look at how this chapter ends. Does it end on a negative note? No, it ends on a positive note. Joshua and Eleazar. What does God do with them? God gives them an inheritance. Eleazar, as a priest, is not going to gain land, but he's going to gain more the respect that he deserves. Who was supposed to do? Joshua, who's advanced in years, about to die, is still going to get land that is owed to him because he did what he was supposed to do. He conquered the land, he looked after the people of God, and he gave them what they needed. And what they needed was a leader who loved them and loved God. And any good leader is going to look at that and say, me too. God, when you give me my inheritance, whatever that is, I'm not doing this for the sake of that inheritance, but I know that when you give it to me on your timing, it's going to be because I was faithful. It's going to be because I loved people who didn't want to be loved back. I took care of people who didn't know they needed to be taken care of. What a blessing it is near the end of his life for Joshua to receive this, having done everything he's supposed to do. Let's think about that. in our own lives and what we're supposed to be doing with God. Once again, we don't do things for the sake of reward. We do things because we love God. And if God chooses to reward us, amen. Enjoy it. It's a gift. It's a present. But don't do it for the sake of the gift of the present. Do it for the sake of loving Him and loving His people. And those who are yet to become His people. And those who never will become His people. So with that in mind, let's move on to chapter 20. A very short one, just verses 1 through 9. Then the Lord said to Joshua, say to the people of Israel, appoint the cities of refuge of which I spoke to you through Moses, that the manslayer who strikes any person without intent or knowingly may flee there. They shall be for you a refuge from the avenger of blood. He shall flee to one of these cities, and shall stand at the entrance of the gate of the city, and explain his case to the elders of that city. Then they shall take him into the city, and give him a place, and he shall remain with them. And if the avenger of blood pursues him, they shall not give up the manslayer into his hand, because he struck his neighbor unknowingly, and did not hate him in the past. And he shall remain in that city until he has stood before the congregation for judgment, until the death of him who is high priest at that time. Then the manslayer may return to his own town, and his own home, to the town from which he fled. So they set apart Kadesh in Galilee, in the hill country of Naphtali, and Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the hill country of Judah, and beyond the Jordan east of Jericho, they appointed Bezer in the wilderness on the tableland, from the tribe of Reuben, and Ramoth and Gilead from the tribe of Gad, and Golan and Bashan from the tribe of Manasseh. These were the cities designated for all the people of Israel, and for the stranger sojourning among them, that anyone who killed a person without intent could flee there, so that he might not die by the hand of the avenger of blood, till he stood before the congregation. Now, if you've been following us for some time, the cities of refuge have been mentioned multiple times before. So this may be old hat to you. Maybe if this is your first episode, I'm here for you to help explain it, or maybe you've forgotten cities of refuge. Why do they matter? Well, first, they showcase God's love for people who need protection. Explicitly mentioned here are people who accidentally killed someone in a way that's not provable initially, with no other witnesses around to say, hey, like the examples kind of used earlier, like his axe head fell off and it swung back and hit the other guy and he's dead now. Well, it looks like you murdered him. So what's he supposed to do? Go to one of these 6 cities, stay there, announce his intentions before the city gate. Say, guys, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm moving here. I have to stay here until the high priest dies, and I need you to judge me accordingly. Gather the evidence. Make things are done correctly, which is something a loving God gives to His people and to the sojourner in the land. We'll get that in a moment, the stranger in the land. Because even though we don't have a biblical account of any of this happening, there are hundreds of years of the people of Israel that are not written down for us, where this could have happened multiple times over, even in one year. So what does God in His love do? Provide a way out for these people, even if He chooses not to focus on that in Scripture. That's what a loving God does. Because back in the day, this wasn't a guarantee. If you accidentally killed someone, you might as well be a murderer. So you're probably going to get tried as one and die. Because I don't know about you, but the forensics of ancient Israel aren't exactly something that live up to our standards now. And what we have now still isn't perfect. So I would rather have a system like this in Israel than be in another nation where this doesn't exist. Love of God. This also prevents murder from happening due to misunderstandings. The avenger of blood is someone who's supposed to take care of the person who murdered their kin. This is an ancient idea all across the Middle East, other nations as well, back in the day, where you took my family from me. So to make things right and prevent someone else's family from suffering as I am, you're going down because you've proven you can't live in this society. However, this person would be a murderer because they don't have the proper evidence. They would misunderstand. In the example of the axe head, say they're both working in the forest, these two, and it comes off, lops the guy's head off. Well, who was around to see that there wasn't a targeted attack? No one. So you see your son, your brother dead, and you go, naturally, with the evidence presented in front of you, he murdered my brother. He murdered my son. I'm going to kill him and think myself righteous in this circumstance when normally you would be, under the old law, righteous. But you were too hasty. And to prevent that person from becoming a murderer unknowingly, God sets up a rule to prevent that from happening. out of his love. As well, they help to temper anger to allow time for evidence to be gathered. Yeah, the forensics of the ancient days, not the best. But you know what they have that we don't have? Priests around them who could cast lots, who could use the Urim and Thummim to get answers from God if, God so chose to get involved in something like this. So that means let's say the priests aren't involved in that way. Let's say someone actually goes out and looks for evidence. You going to get that from anywhere else in the ancient world? Maybe. But here in the law, you have a guarantee of that. Signed and sealed and delivered not by the hands of man, but by the hand of God working through who wrote this down. Also are there to showcase God's forgiveness. The manslaughterer here, who accidentally killed another, has taken a life. They didn't mean to, but they took a life. And that's not theirs to take. And yet, God gives them a way to flee. He gives them a way to live. And he gives them a guarantee in the law that they're going to be taken care of. So that when the time is up, when the high priest dies, the holy man who is serving God, it acts as a way to shield that person from death. And I don't know about you, but it sounds kind of similar to a high priest you and I both know. Should be our high priest. We call him Jesus, who works in that same way, offering forgiveness to people who deserve death. And what we see here through this process isn't only God's forgiveness, but a foreshadowing of what is to come through the sacrifice of Jesus. Even though I've committed my many sins, I'm as guilty as a murderer in that I've committed sin. God looks at me and says, no, you're washed clean. Your high priest died for you. Go out and live in this world that I made for you. And it also showcases God's love. As mentioned earlier, by one thing we've mentioned before in other episodes, but we'll go over it again. This applied equally to Israelites and foreigners in the land. That right there is truly unprecedented. Truly unprecedented. Where else are you going to get that guarantee? Nowhere. Because if you weren't a citizen of the land, you were nobody. They wouldn't have cared about you. God just kill them. Oh, they killed one of our guys, we'll kill them. Well, what does God do? Because God loves both his people, Israel, but he also loves his people, his creations, which is all of us, by the way. He gives them a way out. That's the God we serve. Also, notice, though, that no one condemns the avenger of blood. It's expected for them to be a thing. Why? He's called an avenger of blood. You know what an avenger is? Someone who solves a problem. Someone who makes things right. He's not called a murderer of blood. He's not called a killer of blood, an apostate. Sorry, I didn't get to my mute button in time for that one. An avenger of blood. Someone working alongside God to bring death, to stop death. That is not a contradiction. That's not hypocrisy. The person who has murdered has proven they cannot live in society. More than likely, they'll go out and do it again. And more than likely, they've been an offender beforehand of other crimes that led up to then murder. That person does not get to live. That person gets their day in court, don't get me wrong, because we don't live under these rules. But what we do have are courts and laws based, by the way, especially in the Western world, on God's laws. State isn't real. Yeah. Sorry, Jefferson, but your theistic ideas don't involve God. Hey, you still built your principles based on the truth of the Bible. Sorry to tell you. You can try and take the Ten Commandments away from everything in a courthouse, but if you actually pay attention to how the laws were written, you know where they're influenced from. Here. So the courts and the justice that is given to these people acts in the place of the avenger of blood. So it is their job to make sure that this person is a murderer, number one. They have their time in court. They have their time in jail for new evidence to show up. And then there's a time when they have to die because they've proven they can't live with us. And it's also part of God's forgiveness and mercy that he allows that to happen. Because he loves us, he allows people to take the lives lawfully of others who've proven they cannot live lawfully. You can argue against it all day, but you're not speaking from here. You're not speaking from the word of God. You're speaking from opinion, the wrong one, by the way, but an opinion nonetheless. Chapter 21, we'll be going through verses 1 through 26. Then the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites came to Eleazar the priest and to Joshua the son of Nun, and to the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the people of Israel. And he said to them at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, the Lord commanded through Moses that we be given cities to dwell in, along with our pasture lands for our livestock. If I commanded the Lord, the people of Israel gave the Levites the following cities and pasture lands out of their inheritance. Lot came out for the clans of the Kohathites. To those Levites who were descendants of Aaron the priest received by lot from the tribes of Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin 13 cities. And the rest of the Kohathites received by lot from the clans of the tribe of Ephraim, from the tribe of Dan, and the half tribe of Manasseh 10 cities. The Gershonites received by lot from the clans of the tribe of Issachar, from the tribe of Asher, from the tribe of Naphtali, and from the half tribe of Manasseh and Bashan 13 cities. The Merarites, according to their clans, received from the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the tribe of Zebulun 12 cities. These cities and their pasture lands the people of Israel gave by lot to the Levites, as the Lord had commanded through Moses. Out of the tribe of the people of Judah and the tribe of the people of Simeon, they gave the following cities mentioned by name, which went to the descendants of Aaron, one of the clans of the Kohathites who belonged to the people of Levi, since the lot fell to them first. They gave them Kiriath Arba, Arba being the father of Anak, that is Hebron, in the hill country of Judah, along with the pasture lands around it, but the fields of the city and its villages had been given to Caleb the son of Jephunneh as his possession. And to the descendants of Aaron the priest, they gave Hebron, the city of refuge from the manslayer, with its pasture lands, Libnah with its pasture lands, Jatir with its pasture lands, Eshtemoa with its pasture lands, Holon with its pasture lands, Debir with its pasture lands, Ain with its pasture lands, Shtal with its pasture lands, Beth Shemesh with its pasture lands. 9 cities out of these 2 tribes, and out of the tribe of Benjamin, Gibeon with its pasture lands, Geba with its pasture lands, and Atoth with its pasture lands, and Almon with his pasture lands, 4 cities. The cities of the descendants of Aaron, the priests, were in all 13 cities with their pasture lands. As to the rest of the Kohathites, belonging to the Kohathite clans of the Levites, the cities allotted to them were out of the tribe of Ephraim. To them were given Shechem, the city of refuge for the manslayer, with his pasture lands in the hill country of Ephraim, Gezer with its pasture lands, Gibzaim with its pasture lands, Beth Horon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. Out of the tribe of Dan, El-Teke with its pasture lands, Gibbethon with its pasture lands, Aijalon with its pasture lands, Gath-Ramam with its pasture lands, 4 cities, and out of the half-tribe of Manasseh, Anak with its pasture lands, and Gath-Ramam with its pasture lands, 2 cities. The cities of the clans of the rest of the Kohathites were 10 in all with their pasture lands. A lot of phlegm, a lot of great stuff that comes from allergies. This is going to be a heck of a one for Joshua to work on. I really appreciate the hard work he's doing. So if something slips through, just like throw him a bone. It's more me than him that's messing up right here. So thank you for your patience. The next off, we see, as has been mentioned many times before, the Levites can own no land of their own, but they are still given land to be in, but not possess. There's a difference. Why? Because their job, once again, is to not be like the rest of their brothers and sisters. Their job is to minister to the people of Israel in these cities given to them by who? Not them, God. Responsibility to watch over the people who gave their cities in accordance to the allotment of God to them, which you would think would give you an incentive to do your job, because your bosses, who are really outside of God, the people of Israel you serve alongside, actually control where you live. The priesthood is supposed to have some autonomy on its own, but if you actually factor in everything going on, they're supposed to be serving and under the care of the people they're taking care of. So later on, when we go through the other historical books of the Bible, we go especially through the book of Judges in a little bit, you're going to ask yourself, well, was no one around to tell Israel to do better? Well, the answer is no, because there were plenty of people around them who, if they were doing their jobs, would have spoken out against the wickedness and destroyed the idols and altars around them, the Levites, if they had been doing their job. However, what we end up seeing time and time again is they're either the ones performing the rituals and sacrifices and things they shouldn't be doing, or they're working alongside the people together, leading them that way into darkness and to evil. Or they get corrupted by the people they're supposed to serve. Either way, not their job. Their job is the exact opposite. So I wanted you to keep that in mind when we go through Judges. When we go through 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, there is no excuse for anything that happens when it comes to Israel falling into sin when there are Levites all around them. You could argue and say, maybe they were trained wrong. Sure. But when they got their act together, when God restored them in the many ways that he did, okay, what does that mean? Oh, we need to do our jobs. And they fail time after time after time to do their jobs. And we look at that and say, let it not be said of us. May it never be said of us. Levi, like the descendant was cursed to an extent because of his actions against the city that took his sister. Just like Simeon, their inheritance is gone. Their name isn't gone, but their inheritance is gone in the same way. Their inheritance is God. They need to look at these people they're serving, and they need to love them well. And they fail to do it time and time again. And I'll get to more parts of that when we get to verses 27 through 45. And to the Gershonites, one of the clans of the Levites, were given out of the half-tribe of Manasseh, Golan and Bashan with its pastures, the city of refuge for the manslayer, Bishterah, with his pasture lands, 2 cities. And out of the tribe of Issachar, Kishion with his pasture lands, Dabarath with his pasture lands, Jarmuth with his pasture lands, En Ganim with his pasture lands, 4 cities. And out of the tribe of Asher, Mishal with his pasture lands, Abdon with his pasture lands, Helkath with his pasture lands, and Rehob with his pasture lands, 4 cities. And out of the tribe of Naphtali, Kadesh in Galilee with his pasture lands, the city of refuge for the manslayer, Hamath-dor with his pasture lands, and Kartan with his pasture lands, 3 cities. The cities of the several clans of the Gershonites were in all 13 cities with their pasture lands. And to the rest of the Levites, the Merarite clans were given out of the tribe of Zebulun, Jokneam with his pasture lands, Kartar with his pasture lands, Dimnah with his pasture lands, Nahalal with his pasture lands, 4 cities. And out of the tribe of Reuben, Bezer with his pasture lands, Jahaz with his pasture lands, Kedemoth with his pasture lands, and Mephath with its pasture lands, 4 cities. And out of the tribe of Gad, Ramoth and Gilead with its pasture lands, the city of refuge for the manslayer, Mahanaim with its pasture lands, Heshbon with its pasture lands, Jazer with its pasture lands, 4 cities in all. As for the cities of the several Merarite clans, that is the remainder of the clans of the Levites, those allotted to them were in all 12 cities. The cities of the Levites in the midst of the possession of the people of Israel were in all 48 cities with their pasture lands. These cities each had its pasture lands around it, so it was with all these cities. Thus the Lord gave to Israel all the land that he swore to give to their fathers, and they took possession of it, and they settled there. And the Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he had sworn to their fathers. Not one of all their enemies had withstood them, for the Lord had given all their enemies into their hands. Not one word of all the good promises that the Lord had made to the house of Israel had failed. All came to pass. So all those cities listed. Yeah, the tribes of Levi, the clans of Levi are separated into these different cities. They're not as unified as they were, but you know what? You can travel from city to city, telling the people what to do. You're the literate ones. You're the ones doing the job. It's so easy for you to do this if you actually did your job. And what Levi, once again, will fail to do time and time again is serve the people of Israel effectively. They have their moments. You've got Samuel. You've got them working under King David. Sometimes when they're under King Solomon. Sometimes under King Josiah. King Hezekiah. Sure. But you know what's far more notable? The times when they weren't. It's great when they do their job. You know what? It's expected for them to do their job. And yet, what do? They squander their true inheritance. They get jealous of other people for having land of their own, for not having to serve God the same way they have to serve God. And what do? They let that pride, let that jealousy and envy swirl around in their own hearts to where they reject God and do things their own way. And this is the problem we can see in the church if we're not careful. We who are his have received the greatest inheritance of all time. The blood of Jesus Christ that says, you don't have to be who you were. You're my children. Nothing can take that away from you, not even yourselves. And yet, we look at those who don't serve God and we get jealous, get angry. We look in pride and say, well, if I wasn't serving God, I could live the way I wanted to, and I'd be reaping the rewards that they are. forgetting completely that the rewards that God has allowed them to have now are temporary. They can be stolen, destroyed by moth and flame. And yet we look at them as if they're going to be permanent. When the true permanents are the people that we're working alongside and bringing into the kingdom, so that they can go and do the same. Just like them, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we're done for. We're going to bring ruin to everyone else. So when God talks to them, hey, who gave you this land? Oh, I gave you this land. So I'm your true landlord, by the way. Even though, yeah, they're your landlord in the sense you should be serving them well, you should be paying them back. You're paying me back because I gave you, Levi, the special responsibility to love my people Israel well and what failed. So everything I promised you came true. Because once again, go back. God promises them everything. They promised them the land on the condition, which is a promise, by the way, that they follow after him alone. So when it says that all came to pass, all the good promises that the Lord had made to the house of Israel had failed, not one word of all, let me say that again, not one word of all the good promises that the Lord had made to the house of Israel had failed, all came to pass. It's true. This is not a lie. This is not a contradiction. Look at what is being said in light of all of Scripture from before this. And what comes after, they get exactly what they deserve. Which is part of the promise that God made, by the way. He's going to give them what they deserve. Not completely, because it doesn't kill them all. But he gives them what they deserve, and that's his punishment. Next up, we're going to be on to 22, verses 1 through 9. At that time, Joshua summoned the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh and said to them, you have kept all that Moses, the servant of God, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and have obeyed my voice in all that I have commanded you. You have not forsaken your brothers these many days down to this day, but have been careful to keep the charge of the Lord your God. And now the Lord your God has given rest to your brothers as he promised them. Therefore turn and go to your tents in the land where your possession lies, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you on the other side of the Jordan. Only be very careful to observe the commandment of the law that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you to love the Lord your God, and to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments, and to cling to him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. Not to the one half of the tribe of Manasseh Moses had given a possession in Bashan, but to the other half Joshua had given a possession beside their brothers in the land west of the Jordan. And when Joshua sent them away to their homes and blessed them, he said to them, go back to your tents with much wealth, with very much livestock, with silver, gold, bronze, and iron, and with much clothing. Divide the spoil of your enemies with your brothers. So the people of Reuben and the people of Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh returned home, parting from the people of Israel at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan, to go to the land of Gilead, their own land, of which they had possessed through themselves by command of the Lord through Moses. First off, this is another reward for faithful service. Their land has already been taken. They already own it. But what did they do? They promised that they would continue on and help Israel. They've done what they were supposed to do. It's time to go back home. It's been a very long time. What does Joshua do? Does he just let them leave? No, he leaves them with words of encouragement so they do their job effectively. Be careful enough to listen to my words. Love God first. Then walk in his ways. What? Keeping his commandment. Beautiful thing to say to people who so easily could have made the Jordan a border and never crossed the other side again and lived in their own apostasy forever. And yet what we're going to see here is they actually learn for a time, but they learn for a time to love God well, to serve him well. We're going to see that by going through 10 through 20. When they came to the region of the Jordan that is in the land of Canaan, the people of Reuben and the people of Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh built there an altar by the Jordan, an altar of imposing size. And the people of Israel heard it, said, behold, the people of Reuben and the people of Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh have built the altar at the frontier of the land of Canaan and the region about the Jordan on the side that belongs to the people of Israel. And when the people of Israel heard of it, the whole assembly of the people gathered at Shiloh to make war against them. Then the people of Israel sent to the people of Reuben and the people of Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh and the land of Gilead, Phinehas the son of Eleazar the priest, and with him 10 chiefs, one from each of the tribal families of Israel, every one of them the head of a family among the clans of Israel. And it came to the people of Reuben, the people of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and the land of Gilead, and they said to them, thus says the whole congregation of the Lord, what is this breach of faith that you have committed against the God of Israel, and turning away this day from following the Lord by building yourselves an altar this day in rebellion against the Lord? Have we not had enough of the sin at Peor, from which even yet we have not cleansed ourselves, and for which there came a plague upon the congregation of the Lord, that you too must turn away this day from following the Lord? And if you two rebel against the Lord today, then tomorrow he will be angry with the whole congregation of Israel. But now, if the land of your possession is unclean, pass over into the Lord's land where the Lord's tabernacle stands, and take for yourselves a possession among us. Only do not rebel against yourselves an altar by building, only do not rebel against the Lord or make us rebels by building for yourselves an altar other than the altar of the Lord our God. Did not Achan the son of Zerah break faith in the matter of the devoted things and wrath fell upon the congregation of Israel? And he did not perish alone for his iniquity? Well, I'm glad you're paying attention. This did escalate quickly, in good ways and bad ways. First off, the 2.5 tribes, what do? They leave. They've been told to leave. But having learned from their predecessors, what do? They build an altar so that they can remember, oh, God gave us what we were supposed to have. We're so grateful for that. So when the next generation comes out, they're going to ask, why is that altar there? Oh, because God gave us our land. So you should worship him too. They're doing the right thing. What does this mean? Sometimes you and I, we can do things to serve God and be misunderstood by fellow believers. This is not one of those, someone is obviously sinning. It is someone has thought that they are sinning based on the evidence presented to them, and they don't have enough evidence, or they've either chosen to believe the false evidence, or they think it's true evidence, and now they're making accusations. But there are plenty of times out there when people have brought accusations against leaders in the church or members of the church, and they deserved every bit of it. Sometimes this may have happened to you. It's brought against you, whatever that thing is. And while you were serving God, someone took it the wrong way. Me, I've spoken before about a church I served at when I was in college and after college. And the pastor there and I are very different people. I'll just put it that way. And one of the good things that he did with me is that he identified that I'm a very prideful person, and he would get me to not be that person. That's exactly what he should have done and what I should have done. However, what it ended up becoming was him misidentifying any time I brought up an accomplishment as me trying to say, hey, look at me, look at me. And it didn't matter what it was. It could be, hey, I'll talk to this person about Jesus, and I'm so happy about that. It could be, hey, I decided to serve in a children's ministry, and I'm so very grateful for that. And it would always be thrown back at me. Oh, really? Why'd you do that? Was that really for you, Christian, or was that for him? And some of that skepticism should have been there, and yet the way it was handled was done in the way that made me feel very small, because I was doing those things to serve my God. And instead of recognizing that he screwed up and apologizing for it, I've yet to receive that to this day. And that's one of many things I could bring up, just as one example. It hurt me for years. It hurt my witness. It hurt my ability to feel self-worth, thinking that, oh, I was wrong ever to bring up to God, hey, I'm so glad I accomplished this. I'm so glad we did this together. Or I worked with this person, we got something done. I'm thinking that, oh, if I bring anything up at all, I'm being prideful and sinful, which is the exact opposite of what should have been done. So the 2.5 tribes there are doing the right thing. And maybe you're thinking of something that you did where you did the right thing, and yet it got called out by someone else thinking that it was sin, thinking that you were looking out for self. I'm right there with you. It hurts, especially for people you trust and love. The difficult thing is to know that person has done that to you and then look at them and say, I forgive you. Naturally, I don't want to, because I got hurt. And yet what God has done with me is allow me to say, look, remember what I've forgiven you of. Can't you do the same for them, even if they haven't given you what you want, which is asking for forgiveness? Well, I want you to give it to them anyways. That's hard. It's not fun. I hate it. And yet at the end of the day, I gave it, and I meant it. And still to this day, what I believe was the right thing to do. So what does this mean for us as a church? Well, when rumors spread, they must be investigated well and lovingly. Rumors are going to spread in the church. Why? Because we are a gossipy group of people. It's not just a woman thing. It's not a man thing we do in our time. It is a human being thing. We gossip. We spread rumors. We're wrong every single time. So when information is spread, rumors are spread, masking themselves as information. It is our job, especially in leadership, to make sure these things are true. Or if they're way off base, to kill the rumor mongering as soon as possible. I mentioned before, without naming names, how someone I knew had did something they weren't supposed to do, as far as an emotional affair that could have gotten physical if thank God things got to the point where it didn't actually happen that way, and there was, at least it feels, from what I understand, some form of repentance by bringing it up to leaders of the church. So that's great, but it's still something that caused a bunch of rumor mongering and slander and outright lies being said because people kept spreading stuff without knowing the context of everything. Now, the truth is, a sin was committed, but the truth wasn't that a sin was beyond what was said, what actually happened. And my current pastor, who doesn't know the person involved here that well, or maybe at all, if I remember correctly, made the right decision, and that he investigated it alongside the other church where this person worked at, made sure to interview people, made sure to ask trusted people for their, knowledge on the subject. And then what did he do? He presented the findings to the church and said, look, this is the truth. This is what we know. If you know something we don't, come forward so we can make sure that we can verify what you say against what we know. Not for the sake of, oh, we want to make as many charges as possible, or we really want to get this guy. No, and we also want to give you counseling, by the way, if you've gone through anything. Wonderful, brilliant, A+. I told him that to his face. Because that's what you should do when a situation like this comes up. Instead of just believing a victim, a supposed victim, or believing what is said without evidence because it sounds cooler or it's more gossipy or salacious if you do believe it. You figure out what's right and what's wrong, then you handle it by bringing it up in front of the church saying, this happened, this is what we know, quit spreading lies. So, as leader, Phineas, the high priest, comes up and he starts off on the wrong foot, in direct contrast to what I said before. And yet, where is his heart at? He has improper information, but why has he brought the people of Israel against war against their other tribes? Because he doesn't want it to spread to the rest of them, and he wants to keep things correct and truthful in serving God correctly. So his justification for concern exists for a reason, and it goes even further by justifying by Israel's past, bringing up multiple times when they did the exact same thing that they're levying against the 2.5 tribes. That doesn't make him right in everything that he does here, because once again, he's not acting on the full information. But if this were true, he would have definitely been correct. And we'll see what they have to say to themselves by going through 21 through 34. Then the people of Reuben, the people of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh said in answer to the heads of the families of Israel, the mighty one, God the Lord, the mighty one, God the Lord. He knows, and let Israel itself know. If it was in rebellion or in breach of faith against the Lord, do not spare us today, for building an altar to turn away from following the Lord. Or if we did so to offer burnt offerings or grain offerings or peace offerings on it, may the Lord himself take vengeance. No, but we did it from fear that in time to come your children might say to our children, what have you to do with the Lord your God of Israel? For the Lord had made the Jordan a boundary between us and you people of Reuben and Gad, and you have no portion in the Lord, so your children might make our children cease to worship the Lord. Therefore we said, let's now build an altar not for burnt offering nor for sacrifice, but to be a witness between us and you and between our generations after us, that we do perform the service of the Lord in his presence with our burnt offerings and sacrifices and peace offerings, so your children will not say to our children in time to come, you have no portion in the Lord. And we thought, if this should be said to us, to our descendants in time to come, we should say, behold, the copy of the altar of the Lord, which our fathers made not for burnt offerings or for sacrifice, but to be a witness between us and you. Far be it from us that we should rebel against the Lord and turn away this day from following the Lord by building an altar for burnt offering, grain offering, or sacrifice other than the altar of the Lord our God that stands before his tabernacle. When Phinehas the high priest, Phinehas the priest and the chiefs of the congregation, the heads of the families of Israel who were with him, heard the words that the people of Reuben and the people of Gad and the people of Manasseh spoke, it was good in their eyes. And Phinehas the son of Eleazar the priest said to the people of Reuben and the people of Gad and the people of Manasseh, today we know that the Lord is in our midst because you have not committed this breach of faith against the Lord. Now you have delivered the people of Israel from the hand of the Lord. Then Phinehas the son of Eleazar the priest and the chiefs returned from the people of Reuben and the people of Gad and the land of Gilead to the land of Canaan to the people of Israel and brought back word to them. And the report was good in the eyes of the people of Israel. And the people of Israel blessed God and spoke no more of making war against him to destroy the land where the people of Reuben and the people of Gad were settled. The people of Reuben and the people of Gad called the altar witness. For they said, it is a witness between us that the Lord is God. What do we take from this? Number one, defend yourselves well when confronted with misconceptions or lies. Here we have a misconception. They think by building that altar over there that these 2.5 tribes are committing apostasy. They've probably already devoted this to, they say they're going to devote it to God, but it's really themselves or this other God that they could have served. But no, the truth is, no, we built this altar so that there would not be friction between us. Because what they're saying here is something that will exactly happen. Before it even happened, they know this is going to happen. Why? Because people are people. They live on this side of the Jordan. The other tribes live on this side of the Jordan. Well, someone from the western side looks at them on the eastern side. You're not really Israelites. You don't even live in the rest of the land like us. You live on this other side of the Jordan. You don't serve God like we do. Like there's something other churches do. Like, oh, you may live in the same city as us. You may be Baptist. You may be Methodist or what have you. But you don't serve the Lord like we do. Look at you in your temple of sin. We're the chosen ones. We're the real ones here. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen because there are definitely churches that don't do their job well and need to be called out. But this right here is the example of when a misconception has occurred. They don't serve God because they're building this altar and they want to do things their way instead of the right way. All right, let's go kill them all. That's what they should do if they'd actually done it. But the 2.5 tribes defend themselves well enough with the truth to prevent war from happening. That is good on them. So what does Phinehas do here? Does he double down and say, well, we're already here gathered for war. I might as well kill you all? No. He brings everything back to trusting and serving God as to why they do what they do. Recognizing he's working on false information or misconception, Phinehas owns up. Okay, we had the wrong idea about you. You're doing what you're supposed to do. And instead, I'm going to praise you because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You built that altar. People are going to be asking those questions. You saw this happening already and you stopped it before it could happen. That's brilliant. Because that means that you'll be serving God and we'll be serving God. Wonderful. So he admits fault. And then he celebrates with them. And then he doesn't just celebrate with them, he celebrates with the rest of Israel who thought that there might be a civil war going on. And yet the news is, no, they weren't apostates in the first place. Like, God be praised. There's something to learn here in the church. And that we defend the faith well and destroy evil by working with true Christians. It is our job, when we do say we want to work with other churches, to verify that they are who they say they are. Because there are many false churches out here today that have nothing to do with the Word of God. We don't act superior to them. We don't look down on them and say, we've got your theology wrong. We do correct. We do rebuke. But there's a difference between that and waging a holy war that shouldn't be there for no good reason. When it comes to working with others, other churches, other nonprofit groups, verify that they're true, destroy every misconception and lie that could come up first, praise them for the job that they're doing, and work alongside them. Why? So that we can bear witness to truth and uplift it for future generations to recall, as well as helping our current generation, so that the kingdom is furthered, that the people of God are serving well and loving well. Well, thank you all for sticking through that one. I know it's a little more rough than usual. My voice has gone all over the place tonight. So please, if you get a chance, leave a 5-star review in your podcast platform of choice. Help with the ratings there, help us find more people. Feel free to share the show with your friends and family members. If you're interested in my fiction writing, you can find my works at starwriterskill.com or on Amazon by searching for the name MC Ashley. If you're all interested in some further solid studies into the Bible and its teachings, then check out the other members of the Amazon Ministries Podcasting Network. You can find me specifically on systemic ecology, why I don't like, Friday Night Frights, Spidey Swing By, System Joyful Noises. Feel free to contact me at anythingmoviepodcast@gmail.com. I'd like to extend a special thank you to Joshua Knoll for the editing that he does. He's been doing a lot today, so thank you for that, buddy. And for the things I said before. And for the music he has for the podcast. And with all that in mind, God bless you in accordance to his will and not mine. And allow me one more time to remind you, let nothing move you.